Imagine if you could literally be nearly bulletproof to life itself, where when things happen outside of you, it does not rattle your inner peace. Well, that's exactly what we're going to be going over here today, guys, is how to step into the peace frequency so that way you can truly let go of the suffering going on in your life. Now, suffering can come up in many ways. Suffering can be negative thinking. Suffering can be just simply not enjoying the fruits of this life, this beauty that we have here on this world. Suffering can be a consistently negative mindset that causes you to be depressed. Suffering can be a loss, grief that you might be going through. Whatever it may be, whatever suffering is going on in your life, today I'm going to share with you a mindset, how to really, really master your mind to let go of the suffering in your life. Now, most of us, we want to be at spiritual flow. Spiritual flow is where you're literally in creative mode of life. You're working side by side with God, with Source. You're creating the life you love. You're following your dreams. You're expressing your passions. You're in the moment. You're at that blissful state. It's almost like when you're around 6, 7 years old. That's when a lot of us truly, truly felt that way. But unfortunately, we live in a world right now where many of us are in survival. We're in a survival paradigm where we feel a lot of guilt, we feel a lot of shame, we feel a lot of fear, anger. We're stuck. And I will share this, that if you look around, it makes sense why we're in survival mode. I mean, our media, social media itself, promotes constant negativity, fear, propaganda, and a bunch of crap that they're trying to feed into our minds. So I will say this to you here today, is that if you're stuck in survival mode right now, it is not your fault. But moving forwards, it will be, because most of us are not aware of why we get into survival mode, why we get into these low modes, and how we can actually change. Most of us, instead, we identify with these thoughts and these feelings that we have, and we play with that story for the rest of our lives. But here's what I want to share with you here today, is that you know how when you have a dream at nighttime, where you can't unless you're lucid dreaming, but you can't necessarily control the dream. Instead, you're kind of observing it all happening, but in a way, you kind of know that you're not dreaming. That is what you experience in your life as well. But most of us do not get to that inner stillness. You are the one who is beyond thought. Thought is form. You are beyond form. You're the one observing all this happening. But most of us, we identify with our thoughts, our feelings, and then we build these identity through our lives, and then our ego protects that identity. We get so stuck in this cycle, and a lot of us get stuck in a cycle that, number one, we don't want to be in, but yet our identity and our ego protects it at all costs because our animal side takes over rather than our spiritual flow side. And again, that's why we stay stuck in survival. So all I ask for today is that you have an open mind for today's training. You have a completely open mind, student mode. You're here to learn and grow. Let go of old beliefs so you can step into new beliefs that empower you. And the number 2 is make sure you like and subscribe for more. So let's dive in, guys. So peace frequency. I'm going to keep this here for a little while. Let's delete this part and get into it. So first of all, we want to talk about what's the idea behind this, right? When I say peace, what does that mean? I will say this, is that you are a human being having this limited experience on earth. Therefore, there is always going to be pain. Pain, challenges are a part of your spiritual growth. It is a part of your growth in life. These loops here, right? You wouldn't be able to ascend. You don't know what the good is if you don't experience the bad. So the bad is there for you. The good, the bad, it's all there for you. So when I say get into a peace frequency, what I mean by that is where, number one, yes, you're going to go through pain. You're going to go through challenges. It's a part of the human experience. But suffering is a choice. And I'm going to share with you the switches that you can make in your mind on how to get to that perspective, that point where when these events happen, you don't hold on to what is not meant to be held on to. And this can go for many, many, many different sections of life. So the idea of peace is basically being so unaffected by the external world, where when things happen, you have the right perspective and mindset on it where it doesn't rattle your inner world. Because most of us, we rely on the outer world to influence our inner world, right? I need my partner to do this so I can be happy. I need my job to do this and the people at my job to do this so I can go home stress-free. No, it is all up to you. We have to take responsibility and ownership for our own personal state. We have to do our own job by controlling ourselves, getting to the right state, and then the outer world will then reflect it. And I'm going to break it all down here for you today. So peace, the peace frequency is basically getting to a point where you can see the bigger picture. You can see things for how they truly are, where you can step outside of the limiting beliefs, the fears that your mind might currently have, and see it from a broader perspective, the right way, the expanded way, in a way that does not cause and bring on suffering in your life. Because imagine where you can feel almost bulletproof, where you feel this inner peace, where you feel so good, where you don't need anything outside of you to get you to that point. You know, I had quite a spiritual awakening one time. I was at this retreat, this business event in Texas, and I got to this point in this journey. Like I went there, and my intention was to find my purpose. You know, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I doing here? And I was on this long journey of trying to figure this out. Little did I know that was just the beginning. But on this journey, what I came to realize is I got myself to a certain point. I got my internal state to a certain point where I felt like I've already accomplished and did all the things that I want to do. And then I asked the mentor there, like, okay, I feel this way now. Like I feel like this sense. What do I do now? Like, what's the purpose? And he's like, you do whatever you want. And the way I took that is that, like, you act on your passions. You do the things that you love to do. You make that your personal reality. But most of us, what happens, and the reason why a lot of us suffer, is we look for that feeling, that state, that peace outside of us rather than inside of us. You know, I had a client one time, she was talking about how she wanted to make more money. And I talked about her relationship with money and her state right now. And I broke down the idea how, you know, we do this job, we do all these things for our finances and stuff to feel a sense of safety. But underneath the curtain, behind the curtain, is just someone who's so scared, who is trying to accomplish all these things to keep everything together. But that is not true freedom, right? That is not true richness. When somebody wants to be rich, they want to be financially wealthy, it's because they want freedom, they want abundance. Some people want power, but a lot of times it's around freedom and abundance. But here's the thing is that who is more rich? The person who has no money, who is completely free inside and feels so rich and abundant and has everything they need in every single moment, and they see that and they express that? Or the person who has $1 billion but is working nonstop when they don't want to, who neglects their family, but they feel so much shame and guilt, and they're stuck in their office, and they feel terrible if they ever leave work because they feel like they're not enough and they need to keep working? Who's actually more rich at the end of the day, right? Materialistically, the billionaire, but truly the person who has nothing, because they actually have everything that they need. Because here's the thing, is that the things that you accomplish in your life, the things that you think that you want, you don't want them for the materialistic thing itself. You want the emotion that you think it's going to give you, right? You want that car because of the feeling that you're going to get when you drive it around. You want that money because of the feeling you think you're going to get when you have it. You want that relationship because the feeling you think you're going to get. But most of us are conditioned in life to think that we must go outside of ourselves to get that feeling. And that's where so much suffering comes from, you know, because everything eventually, because one thing's guaranteed is change, everything's going to leave you. But the illusion is that it leaves you. The illusion is that it's separate from you. And that's one of the big three things I'm going to talk about here today, is with shifting your mindset, is the illusion of being separated. But when we buy into that illusion, and let's say, you know, your partner dies or someone in your family dies, right? It causes so much suffering and pain because you're trying to hold on and grip onto something that's outside of you. When in reality, we can just get to that internal state. We can get to a way where we allow what is. We change our perspective. We change the mind, so that way the external world doesn't have such a heavy effect on us. Okay, so let me grab a drink of water. We're going to dive into the whiteboard. So that is the idea of peace. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is what takes away inner peace. So here's what I want you to think about. When you're growing up, you would say that you basically feel you're in a peaceful state, right? When you're young, you're having fun, you're enjoying life, your family's kind of taking care of everything. So at this point, you've kind of learned how to like survive in the world, what to do, and you're just acting on fun, right? So let's say this is your expanded self. Okay? So I believe we come into this world, at first the aim is survival, right? The soul and the body, we have to kind of integrate. We have to learn how to actually survive in this physical world, how kind of the rules work, how things work, just so we can actually survive. That animal part of us and the soul self kind of comes clashing together. So then we get to a point, though, we know how to survive. We're kind of in the roots of things. We got into the flow. Now you're just expressing yourself, right? You're curious about everything. You look at a cow, but you don't have the label of a cow. You just see it for what it is. You truly experience it for how it is. You're so fascinated and curious about the world. You're learning about yourself and everything around you. It's so much fun. That is what I would call the expanded self. The expanded self is a limitless self. As a little child, you're not thinking like, oh, am I going to have enough money? Am I going to have enough food tomorrow to eat? Am I going to have enough of this? Is this person going to love me? No. As a little baby, as a little child, you're just experiencing everything, right? You're so abundant. You're so rich. And so many of us want to get back to that. But here's what happens. So we have the expanded self. We have the limitless self. And we'll say that is where you're in your spiritual flow. You're purely present in the moment. You're experiencing everything how it is. You realize it just is. But then eventually, as you create your sense of self, as you create your identity, as your ego comes into play, and as we're taught in this world where it's mostly a masculine energy push, and when I say masculine energy push, what I mean by that is more so logic. Like we use a logic, we use the force, we use the push. We don't really tap into our emotions, our intuition. Again, if you are a business person, I suggest that you watch the Alex Hormozi and Tony Robbins interview, and you'll see the difference there. Alex is more so the masculine style, the logic, the force, the suffering means success, or success means suffering. Tony Robbins is more so a healthy balance of both. And then there's also the complete other side too, right? Where you're only in the feminine. I believe we need the balance. Anyways, I'm going off there. But what happens is right now in this day and age is that masculine is more so pushed, right? I need to control everything. It needs to be logical. I'm going to suffer to success because that is what makes sense. So that is what is pushed right now. So eventually we create the sense of self. And here's what happens. And this is where suffering starts to take over. This is limited self. And this is where like how everyone talks about like generational curses, generational trauma passed down. It's totally a thing. It's just the way the brain, the mind works. For example, let's say a mom and dad come together, and the dad's belief system is that money's hard to make. Money is the root of all evil, right? And he talks about it, and the mom believes that as well. Maybe she came from a poor family. Maybe your dad came from a poor family. And then they teach you that. And the conversations they have around money is always stressful. They're always fighting around money. They're always having a hard time around money. They don't want to spend money. They're very frugal. And then you grew up that way. And then you grew up with those belief systems. Because again, if you didn't watch my recent video, from a young age, you have mirroring neurons, or you always do, but your mind's wide open. You're a sponge sucking in all the information. So you're downloading this information that money's evil, money's bad, you can't have money, you shouldn't make money, only scammers make money, money is always stressful to make. That's what I see, that's what I end up believing. So then you start to believe in it, but guess what? Is that expanded or is that limited? Because is that universally true? No, not at all. Money is literally just energy. It's a tool that amplifies who you already are, right? And money's not necessarily hard to make, because if it was hard to make, the hardest workers in the world would be the richest. And it's not that way. The construction workers are not the richest in the world. So we get this limited self that forms. And this limited self that forms is right here, if you guys can see this. So we have limited. First one is limited beliefs. Get programmed into us. Fears as well. So this is how the limited self is built. Is we are brought up with these limited beliefs. We're brought up with these fears that are kind of programmed into us, through society, through people, all these things. They push fear. Think of it like this. If you see an animal in a cage, right, and it's super scared, the animal isn't in flow. They're not in peace. They're not enjoying themselves. They're scared. They're only focused on protecting themselves and survival. Now look at how the world operates when it comes to where the economy is going, how living is getting harder for people, how in the news so much negativity is pushed down. They don't talk about following your dreams. They don't show much success and people making it, quote unquote, outside of the matrix, as a lot of people say. They only talk about the bad, the evil, the president, the bad people doing this, the war that might happen that is talked about all the time through history, all this crap they talk about. And guess what? It keeps you in survival mode. Because when an animal is scared, which we are part animal, when an animal is scared, it doesn't think about following its dreams. It doesn't think about what I want to go create in the world or how can I help these people. The animal's only thinking about, I need to survive. I need to protect myself. I need to make sure my family is safe and secure. And therefore, it becomes limited. Your brain literally shuts down creative thinking when you're in a fear-based state. You literally cannot heal when you're in a fear-based state, which is unbelievable. Unbelievable. When you're in fear, your body pushes that cortisol through, and it can literally influence how your genes then express themselves, which is unbelievable to think about. So this is what happens. Let me go over here. So we're in survival, right? This is where shame, guilt, all this crappy feelings, this is our overall state of being, all right? How it's created, though, is because we create this limited self. At a young age, in our most authentic self is the expanded self. But then we kind of trap ourselves in this limited prison from our understanding of how the world works and how we should function in the world and things that we should be scared of. Here's an example. This is very controversial, but death. Death is a learned behavior to be sad about. And I can argue with number one, culture. Many different cultures celebrate death and celebrate it differently. And number two is that you look at a little baby who's at a funeral, they don't understand, right? They're having fun, they're enjoying themselves, but then they look at their parents and they're like, oh, okay, really sad, death is bad, death is scary, see the scary movies about death, see all these things about death. Oh my gosh, now I'm terrified of dying. When death is as natural as being born, death is as natural as love. It's a part of the human experience, right? I look at death as I'm waking back up to my soul. And when I die, it's just that time. So, but a lot of us, we absorb these limited beliefs, and then it causes so much suffering. You know, I know people who can't even talk about death or think about death because it creates so much panic and anxiety within that they just create so much suffering within. They get so sad and upset, and it's really, really sad to see. So now you can see this prison that we literally create within ourselves in our mind that keeps us stuck from truly changing and transforming our lives and hitting that inner peaceful state. And all of these bars in the prison, that we create are all literally just limited beliefs and fears. And how the brain works, which I'm going to explain to you here in a second, how the brain works is that whatever you believe to be true, it doesn't actually have to be universally true, right? Here's some truths here. Number one, truth, I'm not good enough. So I'm not good enough, so I cannot go do the things I want to do. Is that universally true? No. It might be true to you personally, a half-truth, but it's not universally true. Therefore, you do not need to keep that belief system going if you don't want to. Number two, I'm broken. Belief system, I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. Is that universally true? No. So we don't have to buy into that belief anymore. But again, your identity and your ego will protect these beliefs at all costs because it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It doesn't matter if it is expansive or not. It's only about survival, safety, and security. That part of us has taken over so much that people will literally argue to stay stuck. They will argue about their limitations rather than their expansion and growth. And you know what I do when someone tries to argue about that? I just keep saying why. Because as soon as they ask themselves why enough, they'll realize that the story they've bought into about their limitations, the victim mindset, why they can't change their lives and do all these things, they'll realize that it's not true. They'll realize that it's rooted in nothing. It's rooted through past experiences and how the mind conceptualized it, how the mind gave those situations meaning, and then create that into a belief or a fear or a situation that happened that we assign meaning to it, that we made it personal, and that created fear, and that shapes how your perspective is, how your focus is in life. And your brain has to literally go out into the external world and find evidence to reconfirm those belief systems. Because again, brain doesn't care if it's right or wrong, or if it's serving you or not. Brain is just like, okay, this is the story that we're going with. This is what happened. So I need to make sure that happens again. So that way you're safe and secure. That way that you stay alive. Crazy, right? It's crazy. So again, once we can master the mind, once we can truly master the mind and understand how powerful, how much potential we truly have as souls in this human experience, oh my gosh, that is heaven on earth right there. So the limited self, okay? So how do we get to the expanded self? How do we get from the limited self to the expanded self? Before we move on, as you can see as well, if you change this, right? If you look at this as a spiral, is the same thing as that. If you change the view, right? A bird's eye view, you're looking down at a spiral. It's a big circle. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It's your constricted self, right? Compared to your expanded self. And if you look at the spiritual side of things, is where you vibrate on a higher level. And how you vibrate on a higher level, how you become less dense, right? So more connected to source and soul, is that you change your personal frequency. And as you change your personal frequency, as you expand yourself, you vibrate on a higher level. You're more lighter. You're more your authentic, real self. Because authenticity is the highest frequency. And authenticity is just stepping in alignment with the truth, with what is. But again, the brain wants to stay in survival mode. So it wants to give meaning and assign labels and try to use thought, form, and manipulate and shape things in a certain way. This isn't good enough. This is not the way it should be. It just is. It just is. But you cause the suffering by how you think about it, how you see it. And how you think about it and how you see it is all from your core belief systems and your fears that were programmed into your mind, who you think you are. But once you realize that you are so much more than that, and that these are stories, then you can decide if you want to buy into that story or if you want to make the change and expand yourself, realize your potential. So let's dive into the big three. So I'm just going to go over, I could talk about this stuff all day, but I'm going to go over the big three. The big three is the big three shifts that you can start to make after today's video. You can call them beliefs, you can call them ways of being. Big three to truly make a shift in your personal life. Let me get some this here. So we're going to go over number one, the idea of connected and not attached. That's the first one. And the second one is we're going to go through how you manifest reality. So I kind of just broke that down to you guys, but go over again. And then I'm going to share with you the bigger picture as well. So those are the big three. All right, that should be good enough. So the first thing is connected and not attached. All right, so what does it mean, connected and an attachment? Here's what I would say, here's how I would put it, okay? Is most of us, again, we believe that we need things to happen in our external world in order for us to be happy, right? But that's not the truth, because the external world, one thing that's always guaranteed is change. Everything is always changing, which means loss happens, the illusion of loss, right? People come, people go, things happen out of your control, okay? And when things happen out of your control, you try to control what is, but the world has its own plan. And the problem is that when it doesn't go to the plan that you want, when things don't happen the way you want, you hold on to this and it causes suffering. You can't accept the natural flow of what actually is. And the reason why, the good old reasoning, comes down to, again, your core beliefs and fears about the world. Here's an example. A mom steps into the role of a mom, right? A parent, a father. And oftentimes they get super, super connected to their kids. And they assign their self-worth to their kids, right? I grow up my kids, as long as my kids are safe and happy, then I'm happy. Is that actually true? No, it's not. The reason why is because one day that kid's going to grow up. One day that kid's not going to listen to you. One day that kid's going to be their own, their literally own being, their own person. But if you're always in the mother role, you want to protect them. You want to keep them safe. You want to keep them secure. You want to try to make sure everything's good. But one day they're going to expand away. They're going to go. They're going to have their own families. They're going to become their own moms and fathers or whatever it may be. And then what happens is that you start to lose your sense of meaning, right? Well, if I'm not a mom anymore, who am I? What am I? What do I do with myself? I don't have any meaning anymore. I don't have any purpose anymore. And it causes suffering. But the only reasoning why is because we created our own sense of self-worth outside of us. So then we try to hold on to it because it's like, no, this is the thing that makes me feel good. And we hold on to a thorn and we try to grip onto it more and more, and it just digs deeper and deeper and deeper, right? People with their careers and their jobs. My job gives me meaning and purpose. This is my life. If I make a lot of money, then I am worthy. I'm doing good enough for my family. One day that job might go. One day you might retire. And then what? What are you then? Because once that's done, where's your self-worth rely on? So a lot of us, we have to go to the world because it comes down to the feeling, comes down to purpose, gives us meaning, right? Gives us all of these things. We look outside of ourselves for all of these things to make us feel good. But the problem is that, again, change is guaranteed. So when the world starts to change, when things start to change, you start to rattle inside and you start to lose your peace. So the key is again, you want to be connected to all these things. You want to be connected to the world. You want to be connected to your family. You want to be connected to your kids. You want to be connected to your job, to money, to all these things. But you don't want to hold on to it, right? What happens, for example, here's an example of connected, not attached when it comes to relationships. So a lot of people struggle when it comes to relationships, and a lot of guys who struggle when it comes to relationships and getting the woman of their dreams because they come from a place of insecurity and lack, and they attach themselves to the woman so much, to the lady so much, that it pushes the girl away because it represents that I'm not safe, secure in my own. I'm not confident in my own. And that's not so attractive. So it's almost like the idea of like, I want to catch a butterfly. So I'm going to get this big net. And I'm going to chase these butterflies. I'm going to chase them, I'm going to chase them, I'm going to chase them. Hopefully I can catch one. But the better way to do it is that you literally just build the garden. Build the garden. Be in the garden. Enjoy it. Take care of it. And guess what? You'll have an abundance of butterflies come to you. And that's the idea of connected and not attached. You let things be the way they're going to be. People, things, how the world works, etc., etc., etc. All of us, one thing that we always do is we try to control the when or the how things happen in our lives. That's not up to you. That's not up to you to control the when or how. So when things don't go your way or how you want to work, your mind will immediately assign that to things are not working out for me. Things are going bad. Things never work out for me. But it's like, hey, you're trying to fulfill the role of the manager when your job is to be the employee right now, or to be the cleaner, to be the whatever it may be, right? You get the point. You're trying to fulfill a role that is not meant for you to be fulfilled. Okay? Your role is to control yourself, your state, do what you can, act upon how you can, heal yourself, change yourself, and allow what else to be. Trust. Choose to trust in what's going to play out rather than to trust that things are not going to work out. Because it's not like you lack trust, right? You're just putting your trust in one bucket or another. So trust that everything's going to work out for you rather than things don't work out for me. So that's the first big one, is connected and not attached. And how you get connected and not attached is you get yourself to such a good state internally. You get all the feelings that you want internally. You raise yourself to the spiritual flow. You change, you expand your mind, you expand your beliefs around what is. And then that's how you get to that inner peaceful state. That's how you get connected. And therefore, if anything outside of you leaves, you do not suffer because you're not holding on to it, right? That relationship wants to go. I accept what is. Goodbye. I had a great time, but I'm okay. I lost the job. It's okay. I feel amazing still. I'll find something else. It's just the way the world's working out for me. Rather than, I lost my job. How am I going to pay my bills? What's going to happen? I'm a piece of crap because I got fired, or I can't work there anymore. Oh my gosh. Suffering. Right? We go back into fear-based state. So the key, connected, not attached, is know thyself. Get all the things that you want internally first. So everything externally is just a reflection of that, is just a cherry on top. So here's one example before I move on when it comes to connected and not attached. So as I said, the belief system, right? When it comes to connected and not attached, a core belief that you can adopt and build, because remember, beliefs are not solidified, so you can change your beliefs. One thing that you can say, or one thing that you can start to believe in, is that everything is connected. Separation is an illusion. You can do that through understanding God, source. You can do that through understanding that every single thing is energy, every single thing is consciousness, whatever helps you. But that is a very powerful belief, because then you realize that the only thing that separates you from everything else in this 3D world is time and space. But if you remove time and space, every single thing is connected. So when you feel separate from somebody that you lost in your life, understand that it's not truly separate. You're still truly connected to them. But in this personal experience, you might not be right now in this moment, but it's only just an illusion. It's only an illusion. Time and space, and how your mind conceives it, how your mind understands it. But if you can see things as, I'm truly connected to all that is, energy cannot be destroyed, only transmuted, only changed. I am energy. I am source. I am connected to consciousness. I connect to God, whatever helps you. That is a much empowering belief system. But here's the thing, is that you have to actually use the belief system. You have to actually embody the belief system, right? You have to be the belief system. And again, as you do this, the animal mind is going to have pain. Pain is going to happen. It's part of the human experience. But suffering comes in when you hold on to that idea of them not being around and that losing them and you're never going to see them again, and holding on to that and suffering, and it feels so terrible. That's where the suffering comes in. But if you can change it and say, you know what? That's all coming from the belief that they're gone forever. Is that universally true? Not necessarily. I can have a change of mind on this. I can see it from a different lens. I'm going to do that. So you literally dissect the limiting belief, the fear that you had. You implement the new belief. You step into that state, that thought, that feelings that you get from believing in that to be true, and then you move on. And then what happens is that you start healing. You start getting not over it as in forgetting, but you start getting over it to where it's not hurting you so much. So again, you're still feeling the pain, but you're not suffering within. So that's what I mean. Okay, so let's dive into understanding how manifesting works when it comes to your life. Now, I think this is really important to talk about here when it comes to creating that peace frequency and truly changing your life. So here's how I would put it here. So let's do this. Okay. All right. More. So, how you manifest your reality, always manifesting, by the way, always manifesting every single moment. How you manifest your reality, we can talk about this in multiple different ways. You can connect it to the nervous system, how your nervous system determines how you perceive your personal reality. Okay. And, how the nervous system is basically created or stabilized through over time, past experiences, emotional traumas, beliefs, and how we gave meaning to those situations, what your body gets attuned to. We can talk about that because that influences your focus. We can talk about the nervous system or manifesting through quantum physics, how inside a particle, everything is just waveforms. The more and more that you focus on that one possibility, all the other possibilities collapse. Therefore, this possibility becomes more plausible, more possible to come into fruition. And the more and more that you interact with that, it then starts to stabilize into a reality. You can talk about it that way. You can talk about it through the belief system. Right? In the physical world, we need to take action to get the things we want. So you can talk about it through the belief system. And the belief system is basically how your beliefs, okay, so your beliefs over here, your core beliefs about yourself and the world, they then create the thoughts you receive and the emotions you feel. Okay? Your core beliefs create the thoughts that you have and the emotions that you feel. Over time, that creates your state, which is also known as your identity. Now, state is, if you look over on the human frequency chart, Map of Consciousness, by David R. Hawkins, I think he created this, the Map of Consciousness at least. If you look at how it works, there's always these like little states in here. So it can be like guilt, shame, apathy, anger. I'm getting this like it's not in order, but this is an example. Anger, desire, pride, courage, reasoning, acceptance. Then you go into like love, and then there's like enlightenment, and there's abundance. There's some other ones. Anyways, so think of this as your state. Okay, so this is how you raise your frequency to get to the peace state, the spiritual flow. How you do that though is you need to continuously to expand yourself. So this is your overall state, which is created basically from your thoughts and emotions, which come from your personal beliefs about yourself and the world. Okay, you guys with me so far? So then identity and state creates actions or influences your behaviors, your consistent actions over time come from your identity, your state, and that is what creates results. So if you want to manifest more money in your life, right, you need new results in your life to make more money. You need to get into different opportunities. You need to think like a millionaire. You need to you need to feel like it so that way other millionaires like you and you create more networking possibilities. You need to think outside the box, which means you need to expand your mind, which means you need to change your belief system. Because if you don't change your belief system, you won't change your thoughts. So you change your beliefs. And as you change your beliefs, then your thoughts will start to change, your emotions start to change, and then it starts to change your state. So for example, I'm stuck in survival because I believe lack. I believe there is never enough. Okay? I believe there is never enough. There's never enough for me. I never have enough. There's not enough in the world for me to live the life I want. Other people are lucky. They have rich parents, but not me. There's not enough in this world for me. I live in such lack. Your thoughts and feelings about that. Oh, I can never do what I want. I don't have enough money. I can't go to this place. Can't. Is that expansive? No, it's very constricting, right? So you feel like crap from it. You don't feel good. You feel depressed. You feel sad. You lose your confidence. And that creates your state. And your state is stuck in survival. So how do we expand ourselves to manifest a better reality on all levels, right? So this is like your frequency. So your frequency here is guilt, shame, or anger or despair is what your state is. So you're literally attracting into your life because your brain filters out the information that does not serve its core belief system. It's only searching for evidence to influence, to confirm, I should say, that belief of I'm never enough or I don't have enough. I live in lack. So you're literally manifesting it constantly. And how you raise your frequency, how you vibrate on a higher level, get to the peaceful state, is you need to realize that this belief is not the truth. It is not the truth. You need to really realize this is a limited belief. This is causing you suffering because it's not true. And your soul is like, come on, human. Come on, man. What are we doing buying this crap? You are so much more. You're blinded. Why can't you see how powerful and genuine we are? You are so abundant. You have every single thing that you need here exactly in this moment. The illusion that you won't have enough in the future is an illusion. It is fear speaking through you. It is the ego and the logical mind trying to control you, trying to keep you stuck, trying to keep you scared so you survive. But that's not the truth. Open your eyes, take a step back, realize you are literally in this moment. The only thing that exists is here, right now, this present moment. The past is not there. The past is gone. It doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. You're here right now. And guess what? You're alive. You exist. You have enough for this exact moment. That is your abundance right there. That is the proof that you need. That is the belief. That is the evidence. That makes you feel so good. And you buy into that. You believe in it. And every single moment you step forwards, you have that state. Oh my gosh. Imagine how you're going to think, how you're going to feel when you have that state of being. And that is how you expand yourself. That is how you create more peace within. So that's number 2. It's how you manifest your personal reality. All right. Now, let's jump into the last one. And honestly, I don't even need to delete this, but that's okay. I'll erase it. The last one, I'm going to try my best to explain this to you. I really understood this concept not long ago when I was out with my pet pug. He's under the table right now watching us. You know, animals, by the way, are the best teachers because what do? They fully live in the present. They're the best at being themselves. My pet pug, he's always looking for joy, happiness, love. He's unconditional love. He's the freaking best. He's the best teacher. You know, I try my best to be like him. So this last point I'm going to share with you is something that I really was able to understand not long ago. I was watching this beautiful waterfall. I was out with my pug, Frank the Tank. And that is, and this is the higher state, this is the spiritual flow, as you expand your mind, as you see things how they truly are, is, I don't even need to draw it, but one thing you should understand is that, so how it works is a logical mind always needs to try to assign meaning to things, always needs to try to give things a label, always will try to judge things, will always try to manipulate or have a certain perspective that's usually limited on things. Okay? You go to this waterfall and you see this waterfall, right? And you could say, well, that doesn't look good enough. If only it was like this, or it's this way, and I don't really like that. But that is all just the mind, the logic, the animal self, the ego, trying to give meaning, trying to shape it and limit what it actually is. And the whole idea behind this is when you can remove all that filter, all that crap, and you can step back into stillness, no form, just stillness and observing, what you realize is that everything just is. Everything just is. And that is so perfect. That is so unbelievably perfect. You know, you and your struggles, you and your challenge, it is so perfect. It is such a beautiful dance. You realize, like, when you can really step out of that animal zone, you realize all these things was for you, was a trail leading you to where you want to go. Every single time you ask for something, you receive it, but it's never how you think it's going to be. But the suffering comes from how your mind tries to take control and put meaning and understand the things that are playing out when you can't, because when you do that, you're limited to whatever your beliefs are, whatever your perspective is. But when you can just step back, do your part, which is, I'm going to focus on feeling good. I'm going to focus on feeling good. I'm going to focus on healing myself, expanding myself. I'm going to expand my belief systems, how I feel, how I think. I'm going to do my part and control my state and get into the spiritual flow. And then as I do that, I'm going to trust that the external world is going to reflect that eventually, that things are going to work out for me. I'm going to trust in myself that I'm going to make things work. And when we can do that and we can truly expand ourselves and we can truly take a step back, we see things just for how it is. And it just is. And that is so perfect. That is so beautiful. When something doesn't go your way, you immediately think it doesn't go your way. But here's the thing, what if you're late for work that morning because there was a massive car crash that happened and it actually saved your life? You see, you wouldn't be able to have that perspective because your mind is usually thinking in a negative way, a protective, safe, and secure way, right? You're late for work, you're going to get fired, things are not going to work out. Oh my gosh, you're never on time, I'm never good enough. Why don't things ever work out for me? Why is it snow here and it's so cold and blah, blah, blah? But it's like, again, your mind's trying to assign meaning to all this from your limited belief system, your fears. But when you can remove all that crap, when you can really kind of step outside of it, you see things for how it just is. And that is so unbelievably beautiful. And that is really hard to explain. It's hard to grasp. But as you expand yourself, you will one day get to that point and you will see it for how it truly is. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the training for today on how to get into the frequency of peace and truly let go of your suffering. Now, if you like this training, make sure you like and subscribe, share it to a friend who might be in need of this kind of help, and leave a comment below. I want to hear what your opinions are. How did you like this? What you took away, what you didn't like, all of it. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again on the next training.